Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Property AI Report. This is your weekly digest of all things property and AI, brought to you by me, Mal McCallion, and my good friend and co-host, Matt Goddard. Matt, how are you this week?
Oh, great, thanks, Mal. Having seen you last week and getting absolutely drenched in the rain, I'm in beautiful sunny Wokingham today, where I watched deer play on the lawn over an evening drink with Mr. Simon Whale. It's Mr. Chris Hope of Dawson, so it's a very
Lovely.
pleasant evening.
Yes, I imagine that. Yes, the overall scenery and ambience will have been very nice. And you're going back there, I think, later on. So we must, we
As
must.
soon as we finish up here, I'll be heading for the finest kebabs in Berkshire.
In all of Berkshire, all of the Royal County. Lovely. Listen, thanks so much for making time, mate. Really appreciate it. I'm sure the listeners do too. But yes, we will get straight in then to our property news. All right, so this week in property news, I am really mildly obsessed with this particular statistic that has come from a very reputable source, which is Lloyd's Bank. And they have surveyed, I think, over 2,000 of their customers and asked them about what they think of AI in the home move. And really interestingly, 37% of all home buyers trust AI to provide valuable guidance during the home buying and renovation process. Now, I thought that's big. That's a big number. First of all, I thought, who's this come from? Because that sounds too high. But actually, because it's from Lloyd's Bank, you can't really argue too much with it. It seems like it's legit, and it seems like it's growing quite fast.
It's a decent statistical set, isn't it? And as you say, a reputable company that's doing it. But then, given the statistics we spoke about last week with people being surveyed and that awareness now of AI, I think with the Google AI overviews coming a bit more prevalent and the ranking of ChatGPT in the overall things like Apple downloads, maybe it's not a surprise that people are realizing that this information's available when we've got things like the automated valuation models, lead qualification, and the communications we're doing. It is that bit more prevalent, isn't it? And as that awareness goes up in the jobs we do, albeit from I've sat with someone today who's using Copilot as they were typing the notes up. It is becoming more and more prevalent. It's why wouldn't we start to become lean towards the content that's put to us that way?
Yeah, exactly right. I think I've always, since AI first came along, and obviously we set the business up and started talking about this through the poddy, so much. Once people realize just how great it is and how much access they have to all this information, and you can actually go and check out what the roads, you can actually ask it questions about the local community and all this sort of stuff. And it just enhances their ability to discover their dream home. And I think that's going to be so important to so many people. So yeah, you're right. As yeah, 37% sounds a lot, and it is a lot if you think about it. And you're listening here and you're an agent in the UK, that is a lot of people, a lot of your clients are already starting to use AI to research those properties and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think it's really important because I think it's going to mean that more and more service providers, more and more agents, more and more conveyancers, more and more participants in the industry are going to start actually thinking about how they approach this challenge, this new technology. And I think that can only be good for customers, particularly those who are looking for amazing home. And I think it's going to be good for agents who are perhaps agents who are listening into this because they've obviously got an interest in AI, right?
Spot on.
Yeah, so that's our first story in our property news. Also wanted to touch on Street have launched, oh, sorry, Spectre, which is obviously the sister company to Street. They've launched something absolutely amazing as well, haven't they? This lettings landlords platform, which gives you so much data. And this just seems like it's where I thought we would probably get to in perhaps 6 months a year, but it's here already. And those guys have looks like they've really smashed it.
I think this is an interesting one for me because of obviously Spectre's been very good on that canvassing, historic prospecting, I guess, in terms of the mail shots and looking at who you know in your area. And then on sales, it's easier, isn't it? Because you look at land registry and see who owns the property and you write to that person. And most of the time, that person's residing in the property you're writing to as it's their home. Whereas lettings, you write to the property that's been purchased and actually you write into the tenants and it goes quickly in the recycling bin. So you
Exactly. The
don't end up,
last
that's what you want to do is have a tenant having, or even two occupier. No, the tenant doesn't want you to be speaking to the estate agent and pushing up.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
obviously, renters' right bill's a whole other theme at the moment. But the reading between the lines on this one, I'm taking a bit of a stab in the dark, but the things that Spectre calls out that they're focusing on with this rental side of things around corporate landlords and the data that they acquire, I actually think there might be a relationship with Propult in there. And Propult's also a Manchester-based business, but very much focused on lettings data. And the chap who did that, he's ex-Zoopla, and then he found a way of bringing via things like Companies House and then using Companies House data together with the land registry, seeing where it was institutional landlords, corporate landlords, and building out data around that side of things. So I think it's actually probably utilizing that alongside all the things that Spectre's already got in terms of their propensity models and the ability to utilize email and post and such. So I think it might be a nice bit of marketing around the fact it's Propulse data that's feeding this. And this is something anybody can use by going to the Propult website and signing up. I think there's a 7-day free trial to access that landlord data. But I could be proven wrong. I just looking at the sort of landlords that get returned in the information that was provided in that newsletter, I think that's probably what's being surfaced.
Yeah, listen, so I've got no background knowledge on this at all, just saw the article as it come through. But yes, it is what I love about it. I love this idea of kind of propensity to let, so you can score landlords who are most likely to switch agents. And this kind of signaling intelligent daily call list based on this sort of information. That for me is just the real embodiment of what AI is here to help you do as a lettings agent, as a sales agent. And I think, again, I love the guys that work there. I think they're amazing. And I think they've just really produced something that seems like, and again, obviously proof of pudding, eating, blah, 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 but the idea, the concepts that this is what is now possible. Years ago, anybody would just think this is crazy. This is impossible for anybody to get even close to. And I know agents who, for decades have been trying to, how do we get to landlords? How do we build our landlord portfolio? How? And this product seems to be specifically targeted towards making sure that agents have got access to it. Again, I've got no inside knowledge, no kind of leaning towards this at all, apart from I just think that what they do is great. And I think this is a really powerful tool, and yeah, would be very excited to hear anybody that's using it and hear how they found it when it's finally launched. Yeah, no, well done there to Spectre and to the guys there. All right, next up, another, again, really interesting product that's coming out. And this, again, just goes to show how healthy this area is starting to become. GeoCale, they are a business that helps agents to be seen and to be discovered via the large language models, by your ChatGPTs and your Google Geminis and so on. And Matt, they've got something really quite specific tailored to agents as well.
That's exactly it. And actually, I was fortunate enough to have a presentation from Ben Marley today at the Relocation Agent Network Council meeting that I've been in this afternoon here in Wokingham, hosted actually quite pleasantly by Amy Shields of Smart Compliance. So Ben presented to us, and ultimately what it is, it's aligning, and it sounds quite simplistic, but it's not. It's things that we miss. It's aligning your Google business profile and specifically the information that helps you show up on the map search, because you forget sometimes that when you search for best estate agent in Wokingham, that after a certain set of results, the map comes up quite quickly with the top 3 pins in that map, and make sure that you're aligning the content in your Google business profile with what's on your website. So a very simplistic one being that your business opening hours on both align, otherwise Google's going to rank you down, and that you're making sure that you're playing to a certain set of rules that Google then ranks you higher on. And GeoCale is very much geared towards that, and their specific tool that this article was about was making sure that the information was there so that you could then, they've got an API that pushes that information in the background ultimately. So it's not your website being scraped directly, but it's the API picks up and adds metadata to your listings so that Google and therefore Gemini starts to feed that back in when you're asking questions about the ranking of the businesses in a given area. So the estate agents is in Wokingham. Things that maybe if you've got someone very skilled in the dark arts of marketing in your team might realize, and you sometimes think that's quite a basic thing, but there's something like 179 data points that Google is ranking you on, and you need to make sure that you've got those high up, and obviously that the large language models are then leaning on some of that content.
Yeah, nice one. And again, I think this just goes to show that with any new technology, it just gives you the opportunity to rethink a lot of stuff. And like you say, the kind of dark arts of SEO are now morphing into the dark arts of what they call GEO, so generative engine optimization, which is how do you be the one-shot answer to a query from somebody on ChatGPT saying, who's the best agent in my area? I was actually speaking to an agent today who had gone on a market appraisal, and it was a £650,000 property, which is huge in his area. And he asked, how did you find me? And the guy said, I looked on ChatGPT and asked him who the best agent was locally. And he was absolutely flabbergasted because he'd heard me talking about all this. And then suddenly actually to have the fact that he was winning an instruction on the back of how good his reviews were and all that sort of stuff. And it goes to show it's really important for us to be thinking about this, because it can make a real difference to your bottom line and top line just by really focusing on it. So yeah, well done them. I think that's yes, another great addition to the prop tech space.
Yeah.
All right. That is our property news this week. Let us dive into our AI and tech news. All right, we know that almost right now, so we're recording this on the evening of Tuesday, the 9th of September, that right now we think Tim Cook is on stage launching the Apple 17 with all other fun stuff around it. So we will come back to that next week in detail. But there's been a lot of other, lots and lots of other information and bits and pieces happening in the tech space, as you would expect. One of the ones that really caught our eye, Matt, was essentially OpenAI looking to create an AI-powered hiring platform to take on LinkedIn. Now, there's a lot of politics that sit behind this, not least the fact that OpenAI and Microsoft are supposed to be best friends, and Microsoft owns LinkedIn, and now OpenAI seems to be coming for it. But actually, the fact that they're productizing a particular vertical, I think is really interesting. What are your thoughts?
You called it out when LinkedIn first started putting the AI within LinkedIn as here's an opportunity to remove a lot of administration. For me, that I wonder if the players we know that they as in OpenAI, was it 2 months ago, they put in their CEO of applications. So we
Yes.
know that whilst we talk about the fact that some of these large language models are moving to commodities and you're choosing maybe for slightly different flavors of responses and different interpretations at time, but actually this idea that OpenAI put an application layer around ChatGPT now and very much looking to focus in on that. I think it was an evolution, like bringing in a big gun as a hire to look at that space, and some of the other changes that we've seen coming out of the ChatGPT 5 with some of the sort of content they produce, but going straight into hiring and that side of things is really interesting. But I wonder if there's been some muscling between Microsoft and OpenAI. Historically, they've had that relationship, haven't they? Microsoft are a big investor in OpenAI, and Microsoft come out to say, was it last week as well, they're building out two of their own large language models, and there's various negotiations around that. So it's like, how long do they stay civil bedfellows? And is this OpenAI turning around and going, actually, if you're doing this, because LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft, and is this now them going, actually, if you're building your own LLMs, we're gonna have a play in your space as well.
Exactly. So absolutely. It's so the new chief applications officer or whatever she's called Fidji Simo. She's ex Instacart CEO. So basically an e-commerce platform has been her background. So yeah, the fact that they are now looking to productize a lot of this stuff is, as you say, unsurprising, bearing in mind everything is becoming commoditized. So actually the differences are going to have to be at the top layer and actually the kind of the entry level stuff. So yeah, I think that it is, clearly going to further fracture the relationship between Microsoft and OpenAI. I don't think that they are busy trying to unwind themselves a lot of the way anyway. But I think as well, actually, what that looks like in terms of how do you get however many billion, I think is it 3 billion or something, the numbers of executives LinkedIn has got on its platform. Can you get all of those people to switch? How does that work? And that's going to be really interesting too. So yeah, I think it's going to be a real moment in time when they actually come after a particular classified vertical, and interesting to see whether they can do it. Those of an older bent, such as I, and to a lesser extent you, mate, remember
Thanks.
when Google tried to go into the property
Yeah.
space, tried to do its own portal, and that kind of fell over quite quickly because of it was just a terrible interface and they didn't have the data quality either. So yeah, whether OpenAI is going to just do a similar thing and kind of find itself in a similar position remains to be seen. But we will let you know as it all transpires and as it goes through. But yeah, really interesting move from them right now. So next up on our AI and tech news, we've got the browser code which runs DIA, DIA, which is, again, regular listeners will know, is my favorite little browser at the moment. So I've stopped using Google Chrome because I've been using DIA, and you can ask questions of all the pages you're on and all that sort of stuff. It's been bought. And it's been bought by Atlassian. And yeah, I think that's probably a sensible move because they're about to be absolutely killed by OpenAI launching their own browser, Google Gemini's browser, and all the other browsers.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting one. And for what did you call us the other week when we were talking about nerds and geeks? Was it Neeks?
Neat. Yes.
For those that don't live in our worlds, Atlassian is a software empire that really has a lot of products that are fundamental to the software development life cycle. So that's where we geeks, neeks develop things, products, software. They are the bedrock. There's a product called Jira that schedules all the tasks and you watch them get worked through. And it's interesting for you as a Dear fan to see whether Atlassian take this in a different direction now. So it's a case of, does Dear as that sort of augmented browser suddenly become very business focused? Because you don't really use Jira or Trello for personal things. So I can fully see this becoming part of the Atlassian ecosystem. I sometimes feel dirty using that phrase, but using all that Confluence, Task, and Jira and Trello and all these products that hopefully people aren't Googling and waste their time on, but actually in one place so you can, for all the examples you've given us over the last few weeks, it just becomes your hub of your business day to day. And I can absolutely see Atlassian bringing that home.
Yeah. So you don't use Trello boards to like organize your shopping list, no? Okay. Very good.
Kate has a bit of paper pinned on the fridge.
Fair enough. Yes, so as you say, I think it's going to take it off in a slightly different direction. I think it probably needed to be part of something bigger because it was standalone. I think it's great. It's a great piece of kit, but I would be lying if I said I'm also not looking forward to I'm looking forward to the OpenAI version because obviously I'm a paid subscriber and I can get
Mm.
to all my stuff and it will know more about me and then it'll be able to utilize that in terms of the websites that I visit and stuff like that. So yeah, it's probably got a limited shelf life in terms of individual usage, but if they can fold it into that, as you say, the ecosystem, then I think it's got a good chance and it's probably a really great move from the Atlassian side as well. All right, next up, wanted to just jump into, there's been so much Elon Musk over the last few days in terms of stories, and mainly around Tesla. Okay, so Tesla has proposed a new pay package for Elon Musk worth up to $1 trillion. All right, he's got something like 8x the value of the business over the next 10 years or something. But it's almost, I feel like it's a little bit embarrassing for Tesla, right? Because they're trying to capture his attention. It's almost like he's gone off and he started doing there's so much other stuff. They're like, what are we going to do, guys? We've got to get him back. Let's offer him $1 trillion. And so they made that offer and that's got to go through the board. The board said he's so amazing, he's going to be able to do that. But at the same time, interestingly, and probably like badly for them, their ad spend on X, so Elon Musk's platform that he's obviously very attached to, has shrunk to almost nothing. So it's like actually Tesla has forgotten to advertise on X, which obviously is
That's because they're putting all the money into his salary. I can't afford to advertise on X because I need to pay you this trillion.
exactly one way or another it's coming to you, buddy. So yeah, it's so there's that, and then Tesla shareholders are also voting on investing in Musk's XAI. So they're trying to throw some money at that, and yeah, it's just a bit of a yeah, it just feels quite sad because obviously Tesla was amazing, and then it's just started to stall. Haha. And also the Chinese EV market is coming on really strong and everyone's buying into that. Yeah, what's your take on this this particular series of stories?
It's obviously a big flirtation, and I have to be honest, it's not one that I've kept an eye on this week. So I've been really interested in the other big flirtation going on between Google and Apple at the moment. So
Yeah.
seeing that, but I have to. One of my friends over in Melbourne, or sort of one set of my friends in Melbourne, have bought the BYD, Build Your Dream, which I hadn't realised was over here, and I've seen three of them go past me today. Like Tesla, I don't know if a lot of the Tesla drop. Certainly here, the lefty liberals stopped buying them, didn't they, when he went off doing that side? But it does feel he's obviously a very successful person, so you can't necessarily blame his lack of attention on this. There must be bigger forces at play.
Yeah, no, exactly right. I just think it's very just indicative of the way that the market is going and how competitive it is. So yeah, that's more, even more of that I'm sure will come as we go through. But as you say, Matt, the really important stuff around Google and Apple, they've been flirting. What have they been doing together?
You heard it here first several months ago, didn't we? When we were talking about our Apple Intelligence and it not being what it was, you berated me for buying my iPhone 16 and the Apple Intelligence button and how there's lawsuits going on everywhere. We said what Apple need to do is actually get off trying to build its own that's failing so badly and actually partner with one of these other companies. And at the time, Perplexity was mentioned. Do they buy Anthropic? As it sounds at the moment, and this is based on an article that came out of Bloomberg, and you'll do your normal allegedly piece into the mic, but it sounds like Apple are going to pay Google to utilize Gemini within all of their product suites, a specific version of Gemini built for Apple. But even it means that when you're asking Siri questions, it won't come back with some balked answer. It'll actually be utilizing Gemini and coming back, which, on what we've said several times now, is a very powerful large language model now, isn't it?
But I have on very good authority that Tim Cook listens to this podcast, and actually that's one of the reasons why he decided
That
to.
is definitely our listeners in Palo Alto. It's nothing to do with people we've worked with in the past.
Yeah, no, I think it's as you say, the car crash that is Siri right now, which is just basically a glorified timer, is yeah, for it to now actually be powered by some intelligence is going to be really good. And actually, we were talking a couple of weeks ago about thinking about changing our ecosystem across to actually all of our Apple stuff because we both have lots of Apple stuff. Actually, do we need to move it to Google because all that
Mm.
seems so cool? But now, and again, they are live on stage right now and probably talking about all this stuff that's coming out. Yes, I think it is that they need this. And it's
Yeah.
interesting with Google because Google is the only real challenger to them from a mobile phone perspective at this point with their Android systems and so on, but the Pixel particularly. But actually, if what Google is doing is providing Apple with the means to fight off Google's Pixel, then that's an interesting play as well. But there must
But it's not unprecedented, is it? Because Google currently pay Apple, is it something like 20 million a year, or is it billion? I'm missing some zeros
be.
to have Google as the key search on all its Apple devices. These relationships do exist, and so case it's going to be a case of here's a load of cash for using Google as the main search on, and here it is back to use Gemini on all those models. So I think it's the only really way that Apple can get back in the game, and the fact that they are doing it. What's interesting is the fact that they're doing this rather than making any acquisitions. And I don't know if that's because Tim Cook is, by the sound of things, pretty loath to make acquisitions. And I guess my gamble would be to say Apple Intelligence won't get mentioned on stage tonight, and it'll be mainly around the hardware they're releasing.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a bad shout. Obviously, as we said, Tim Cook's listening. So acquisitions, Goddard Consultancy Group, is that
It's
pretty much?
just move to the side there.
You're available for an acqui-hire if they decide to get involved in the prop tech space over here. Good news.
Exactly.
Excellent. All right. So that is our AI and tech news. Let's move on to our AI tool of the week. Now, I've been really keen to get back into this. So this is Google's NotebookLM. So for those that have not heard of NotebookLM, it's amazing. Go and have a look. There's a free level. And basically what you can do is you can upload loads of documents, you can upload recordings, you can upload videos, you can upload the budget when it comes out at the end of November. You can throw it into NotebookLM and say, summarize this, and it will summarize it. And you can say, also pick out all the bits that are important to property, and it will go and do that. But now, excitingly, it's also got additional ways of interacting with it. So you can actually customize the tone, essentially, of what it allows, how it comes across, what it talks about. So it also has the ability to create little audio overviews. So they are just little, it sounds like a bit of a podcast. It's super fun. You should go and play around with it. But also got video overviews now. And again, this is something that we've been to get hold of and have a play around with properly. And it's really good. It creates this little like slideshow and does a kind of proper voiceover. And you can now change, and this is the new bit, you can now change the tone of that voiceover and make it really serious, really playful, really funny. And it's just a really, really good way of utilizing AI to help your teams, help you to understand different kind of concepts and stuff like that. Matt, have you been, I know you're using it back in the day. Is it something that you've found helpful for you?
Yeah, very much as I touched on earlier, we've been at Relocation Agent Network today and talking about how do certain businesses onboard and utilize the service and coach their teams. And as there always is, there's some companies and some areas that are doing things better because you maybe have staff who've been around longer, you've got that retention, that training. But I actually use NotebookLM as an example where we could take all that material and it's very much ring fenced. It's not going off to the wider internet and discovering things or trying to be helpful and maybe bringing in content that's not relevant. It is down to the content that you upload, whether it's PDFs, whether it's web links, you stipulate, but then being able to do the FAQs to say, create me an audio overview. But also, we touched on it maybe 3-4 weeks ago when the video overviews first launched, but actually, we would talk about it as the tool of the week, but it wasn't available in the UK yet. But that is now here as well. And the fact that it brings in images and graphics from the documents or slide decks that you upload. And Jamie, who's the operations director at Complete ASAP, did this when they started doing their expansion and training, and the ability to have this wealth of knowledge that you've got down in documentation. And a lot of companies that we interact with and deal with have done that because you get your processes, you get your training documents. But this just allows people to say, into quite a nice prompts, tell me how I should go via this onboarding, or how do I refer someone within the relocation agent network, and it comes back with specific information. As you say, the audio overviews and now the video overviews are absolutely exceptional.
Yeah, exactly right. It's even now got a mind map function. So you can just click mind map and it'll help to spider out different things and it helps you to really think through your business. You can literally put your business's documents in there and say, write me a training plan on this for new recruits, things like that. So it's just so good. So if you haven't played around with it, go play around with it. It's awesome. That's Notebook LM. So do go and have a look at that. All right, I'm very mindful of your time, Matt, because obviously I know that you want to get off, but we're still going to do Weird AI of the Week because it's a really good one. All right, Weird AI of the Week this week. So basically, you may have noticed that there's been an absolute explosion in .ai suffixes for property websites. Now, I didn't realize this, but actually .ai is owned by a country, just like all of them, just like UK is owned by a country, just FR and .us. So Anguilla was given .ai, right? And now 25% of its revenue as a country comes from people buying domain names. All right, so this is just one of those lovely stories about just these accidents of everybody's out doing all this other stuff, and by a happy circumstance, it also means that this random country is benefiting hugely from the .ai boom. So yeah, so it's free money basically. They keep licensing this stuff out, selling them out, and they get it. And apparently they got a huge amount this year. And so it made $39 million this year, and it's going to make $49 million next year. So it just keeps on going up. Excellent. So basically, yeah, if you are a country that happens to have a really cool, it was .it for a while, wasn't it? I remember. So
.io is another one.
yeah. So Italy got a real bump when IT, so something like kerfuffle, shall we say, they got a big bonus from that. But yes, it's just a really nice story, and just a really weird one that kind of came out of the big AI. But that's our weird AI of the week, which I promised to keep very quick. And that is us, Matt. You're going to be able to head off to
and I even put a robot video in for you this week as well, the robot stacking the dishwasher, so we can include that in the show notes for people to watch, because I know you love a robot doing mundane stuff.
I cannot wait to see that. Dishwashers, they're coming to do my dishes as well. It's going to be great.
I was berating the mother-in-law, saying I hope they're not being trained on your data, because she's not allowed near the dishwashers. Dan the man does all of the dishwasher stacking. No one else is allowed near it.
Yeah, it's a very distinct.
You need to get that training data.
Absolutely. Brilliant stuff, Matt. Thank you so much. Really great to catch up. And yeah, listen, have a great evening tonight. Say hello to everybody.
Thank you. Likewise, have a lovely week, and I'm sure we'll catch up again soon.
Sure we will, absolutely. Thanks to everybody for listening in. We will be back to you again next week, and yes, with plenty more property and AI news, and look forward to catching up then. See you in a few days.
Have a great week, everyone.